Hi, friends. My name's host Eric, and I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. Tonight, I'm going to explain how we can evaluate a person's conscious use of a function by asking them to recall instances where they should have paid attention like meow, but instead paid attention like meow. And I will pull up a chart here to demonstrate the concept. Extroverted intuition. So, if you want to evaluate a person's relationship with extroverted intuition, you can ask them, do you remember an instance when you think to yourself later, I should have said meow, but instead I meow? Well, if they say, yeah, and I just walked away, hung up, punched him, that means they had too much extroverted sensing when they needed extroverted intuition. I didn't note yet a key detail. It means they prioritize introverted intuition over extroverted intuition, making something up anyway. I didn't think of it until later. That's too little extroverted intuition. You might evaluate it as too much introverted sensing. I was still trying to get caught up. This is the sort of thing that somebody who's a deliberator might say, because they're trying to figure out what they decide about something when the moment presumably calls for saying something rather than thinking more. I just said what I always say to them. That would be too much introverted sensing. Was too shy or too self-conscious. That would be prioritizing extroverted feeling considerations over extroverted intuition. It mainly would possibly mean too much prioritizing those short-term extroverted feeling considerations over the long-term ones. So somebody is likely to say, I should have said meow, meaning if I had said that, I would have won the FE exchange, but instead I prioritized avoiding embarrassment in the moment would be a short-term FE prioritization. And then lastly here, didn't want to hurt their feelings. That would be mostly FI, but could be FE. I should have said meow, but I didn't want to hurt their feelings. Now I wish I had hurt their feelings is basically what's implied by that, right? All right, let's go on to the next one. NI. We're just doing the perceiving functions today. I should have realized... What? Oh, thanks. I should have realized... But I had target blindness, which is, I'm paying attention to this. That's perfect, Rachel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had target blindness, which is I was paying attention to this, so I wasn't paying any attention to this. That was not on purpose. That shit just happened. Isn't that amazing?
That really is.
I did like I always. I trusted my experience, or I remembered. That would be too much SI instead of using NI. Was too busy talking. So you could say what happened there for me was I was too busy talking, but really it was target blindness because if I had just been talking, I'd been looking at myself, but I'm actually looking over here at this chart, so that's why it was target blindness and not too busy talking. But if I were too busy talking, then it'd be too much extroverted intuition when I needed introverted intuition. I was trying to figure out, too much deliberation function when I need a knowledge function, was worried about being embarrassed somehow or embarrassing someone, too much interface function when I needed a knowledge function, namely extra feeling in that instance. But I just didn't trust my instincts. It'd be not conscious, countervalued, to be aware that you didn't trust your instincts implies some consciousness of it, but would definitely be too little introverted intuition. Or I just pushed random stuff until it was too late. That would be like, but I didn't have the TE my realization failed to apply to something that needed to be figured out with TE, basically. Okay, so now we've known how to potentially see how people's relationship is with these first two perceiving functions, the ends. Now let's go to the next one, SE. I should have pulled the trigger on meow or stuck with meow, but instead I backburnered it forever, just didn't. That's too much SI or too little SE one way or the other. Too much NE or something. It's hard to say exactly what that one is, but couldn't decide fast enough. That's too much deliberation function when you needed to, he who hesitates is lost is implied by that one. Distrusted my instincts. That's, again, countervalued NI or not enough NI to pull the trigger from because NI and SE are linked, right? So, but I was dissuaded from doing so. That would be over-reliance on FE when you needed SE. But I didn't want it bad enough. That would be sort of a strong awareness of one's own relationship between FI and SE. But I kept changing my ideas. Too much extroverted intuition when you need extroverted sensing. But I hit a roadblock I couldn't get around. That would seem to be inadequate extroverted thinking in order to facilitate the extroverted sensing that was desired. Okay, and this doesn't tell you exactly what slot they're in, right? But it gives you some sense of if they're not, if somebody self-identifies as somebody who frequently says something like, I should have pulled the trigger on, but instead well, how they answer here is going to tell you a lot about, number one, where SE is. The fact that they choose this is a common thing that they say to themselves, for example, means that they already are aware they have some kind of weird relationship with extroverted sensing. They have trouble with pulling the trigger on things. They might self-identify with an executive function disorder or something like that. But these other things will tell you what they're prioritizing instead, and that can help, provide not super like plug in A, get B kind of results, but it helps to inform you a lot about what functions you're looking at as conscious and personality defining. The last one, SI. I should have learned or remembered, but instead I was too caught up completing MIA. That's SE over SI. Went with my gut about such matters instead of my learning and memory. That's NI over SI. I tried to figure out a new way. That's NE over SI. I re-verified the results. That's TE or FI over SI. I figured out how to do it all again. That's TEing when you could have SI'd. Or I trusted that MIA knew what he was doing. That's FE over SI. So that's it for this video. I know I didn't cover all the possible permutations of function priorities and stuff, but hopefully it gives you some sense of how useful cognitive functions is, at the very least in terms of taxonomy and the way people answer shit and stuff,
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.